free hand in how I run this room. I'm used to seeing my room in the top 3 on the level. You will want to keep that happening. I'm sensing you understand.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Star Wars Andor Episode 8 video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs to break down, a whole bunch of cameo scenes to talk about, multiple cameo scenes, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Careful for spoilers from the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. Starting with the episode title, it was called Narkina, which is a reference to Narkina 5, the Imperial prison planet that they send Andor to, where he's going to have to break out of next, like big prison break that they tease in the next big arc. So obviously there's a bunch of episodes left. There's a couple arcs that they're breaking them into. The next big Aldhani level event on the show will probably be his prison break. The actual episode starts with Andor, the other recently sentenced people being taken to the different Imperial prison planets all over the place by shore troopers. Those are the same types of stormtroopers that we saw during Rogue One for the first time, and also special cameo scene in episode 7 that we learned about after the fact. He wasn't in the credits anywhere, so you wouldn't have known about it unless you could pick up on his voice, but this was Sam Witwer playing the shore trooper who asked Andor if he was part of the rebellion that was going on here, and hauled him in.
What do you think you're doing?
Excuse me?
You keep looking around.
Just trying to figure out what's going on.
You a part of it?
Sam Witwer has all kinds of stealth cameos. He did it during The Mandalorian, did it during the Book of Boba Fett. He seems like he shows up all over the place as these uncredited one-off characters. Maybe someday we'll see a Starkiller series, because they keep showing us that Starkiller armor inside Luthen's shop. He actually has 2 different versions of the Starkiller armor. And if you didn't watch the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, and you didn't watch the Han Solo movie, he does the voice of Darth Maul in animation, but he also did the voice during the Han Solo series. Like for the live-action performance of Darth Maul, they did a combination of Sam Witwer doing the voice with Ray Park coming back to do the physical appearance.
I can see him in my mind's eye. Kenobi. Kenobi!
The other prison planet that they send people to, Belsavis, is actually from the Legends canon. They've also used it in the newer canon too, but a lot of tie-in material. It hasn't showed up in the movies before. It was a planet that was previously controlled by the Rakata Infinite Empire, which they referenced in an earlier episode, which is also a big Knights of the Old Republic Easter egg. And I believe the system also housed one of the Emperor's super weapons called the Eye of Palpatine in some of the tie-in material, but I think that might be from the Legends canon. They're just meant to show you that the Empire has many, many different prison planets, many different types of prisons that they send prisoners to. The one on Narkina 5 that they send Andor to is a work camp place where they just have all the prisoners perform duties, building things for the Empire, probably weapons, things that were used against the people. Like the whole irony of the situation is that the prisoners are building things that will eventually wind up hurting their people in the future. Back in the Imperial Bureau of Standards, we finally see Cyril Karn run into Dedra. He gets hauled in by her and the ISB, who as of last week's episode, basically was elevated within the ISB to get all this authority and do whatever she needed to do to find the rebels. The funny reason for them connecting with each other, though, isn't because of all the information that he has. It's actually because he's been lying and using his authority at his new job at the Imperial Bureau of Standards to try and find Cassian Andor, lying about his identity to try and use this workaround through the system to actually get to him. It's him basically doing the same thing that he did before, like just trying to use whatever resources he has to track down Cassian Andor. And while yes, he would be a great asset to Dedra, the whole joke here is that they don't want to have anything to do with him. It'll be really funny to see the way that they pay this off. Like at every single turn, he represents himself as this great asset to the Empire, and it sounds like he would potentially be a great asset to the Empire, but if the Empire doesn't want him, does that mean that he'll eventually turn and help the rebels? He's one of those characters that sounds like he's headed for this long dark night of the soul, like nobody wants me, what am I gonna do about this? The character that has all the answers but that no one wants to listen to. He's gonna be like the most put upon character in the Star Wars universe during this part of the timeline. Like the Meg of the Star Wars universe, to make a Family Guy reference, the one that everybody clowns on. But he does wind up cluing Dedra into the connection between Andor, Bix, and Luthen, which you'll probably remember as she starts torturing Bix, which happens at the end of the episode. Like this weirdo Cyril Karn was just talking about Bix and Andor's connection. Maybe there's actually something going on here. You also notice the interior of the interrogation room is also really cool in a WTF way. Like the outer structure here has this weird design. It's meant to shield against all signals coming in and out, like it's meant to be like a Faraday cage. It's so that the ISB can torture people however they like and nobody will find out about it. When we travel to Narkina 5, it seems like mostly a water-based planet because all the prison structure seems like it's beneath the ocean, which I think is on purpose as a security measure on top of everything to deter escapees. Like, if you escape, you'll be underwater and it's frozen, so there's no way you're going to make it to the top alive. Basically, they only have that one way out, so it'll be interesting to see how he actually does escape. It sounds like it's going to be him running the gauntlet, taking advantage of all these different people being super lazy. They make a big deal about that later in the episode, like there are all these deficiencies in the security amongst all the guards. Like, oh, sorry, they're short one man down on another level, so I had to help out there, and that's why I'm late here. That's why he was clocking all of the guards' different activities, because they'll probably use that when he tries to escape. It's meant to be another reference that Andor made earlier this season to Luthen, talking about how the Empire had grown so overconfident, they're so fat and lazy, anybody can just walk in and take whatever they want. They're going to pay that off when he tries to escape. During the ISB meeting, too, when Dedra is explaining what's going on next, I love the way that Colonel Yularen seems like he could barely be bothered to actually listen to her. Like, go on, I'm reading my report here. It's like being in a big meeting, giving a huge presentation, but the person you're giving it to is just reading their phone the whole time. This is just meant to set up them taking a larger force to Ferrix. Their whole goal, though, is to track down Andor, use him to find Luthen, who they're calling Axis, because they call him the axis of a bunch of different rebel cell activities across the galaxy. And after rewatching the episodes a couple times, I definitely do think that Dedra is probably going to wind up being Andor's long-lost sister, and she's just been reconditioned, just kind of changed her appearance a little bit so that she doesn't seem like Andor's sister. Like, you look at his sister in the past, she looks like this, but you look at Dedra in present day, obviously she's meant to look different, but if you notice, Dedra actually changed her appearance here, like she dyes her hair blonde because her roots are all brunette, her eyebrows are brunette. Her accent might sound a little bit different, but I think that she's just putting the accent on, like the accent is fake, she wasn't born with that accent. I think ultimately what we'll find out is that she was captured by the Imperials and she was conditioned by them when she was growing up, and that's why she's acting the way she is now. Like, she isn't pretending, she actually is genuinely an Imperial trying to rise through the ranks. Clearly, those two characters, her and Andor, are the main characters of the series, like way more than Luthen and Andor are, so the whole show seems like it's turning mostly on what Andor and Dedra do. And I think if she does wind up being his long-lost sister, we need to ask, because she's seen his face, like they show his face in the middle of their briefing here, does she actually recognize him from the past, or has something caused her to forget about him? Either way, I think they're playing the show on this Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader reveal kind of moment, where in Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker learns that his father is Darth Vader for the first time. I think during Season 1 early theory, Andor will find out that his sister is Dedra, and it'll be like a big WTF kind of reveal. So that going into Season 2 is kind of like a Return of the Jedi kind of twist, where Luke Skywalker tried to bring Darth Vader back to the light side, and Andor will try to win his sister, maybe Dedra, could be somebody else, but maybe Dedra, win her back to the rebellion. You can let me know in the comments whether you think Dedra is Andor's long-lost sister or not, but I think that's the whole twist of the show, is that we'll find out who she really is at the end of Season 1, and then Season 2 will be trying to win her back. We get a bit of a tutorial at Andor's new Narkina 5 prison, and obviously our big cameo scene with Andy Serkis, not playing a creature or anything like that. That's the other big surprise. Like, one, it's Andy Serkis, but also it's Andy Serkis playing a normal person. If you don't remember, the other big deep cut here is that he played Snoke during the sequel trilogy. You can make all the funny Snoke theories that you want. Obviously, he's just meant to be a completely new character on the series. They have this weird thing with 7 too, like there are 7 different levels in the prison, 7 different rooms per level, and 7 different people per table with 7 tables in each of the rooms. The Empire definitely likes the number 7. His name on the show is Kino Loy, and the way they're playing him, he's just like this dick that's managing the room because his sentence is almost over, so he's risen through the ranks of different prisoners. But the basic idea is that you step out of line, you'll basically die. Like they have the joke about people sleepwalking, which they pay off later in the episode. Like either the guy sleptwalk or he killed himself by walking off of his bunk in the middle of the night. I actually think the latter is true. I think that he did it on purpose. Like I said, they organized the show with a couple different story arcs across a couple different episodes, and the current story arc is now Andor in prison and breaking out of prison, so this will probably only last for a couple episodes. So the big prison break that they tease that he'll eventually have to pull will probably happen either in the next couple episodes. They could drag it to the end of the season, but I don't know if they'll wait that long. I believe the next big event will happen in episode 11 and 12. Like the prison break will happen in episode 10, then 11 and 12 will be like the last big arc of the season. During Mon Mothma's new party, she tries to wine and dine a bunch of other senators, winning them to her cause to try and work back on Emperor Palpatine's latest security measure that he enacted with the legislation. They also reference that when Andor's talking to the prisoners, like, did something happen recently? Because everybody's sentences got doubled, like the Empire has gone hardcore now. It's because of the big heist on Aldhani. So the irony of the situation is that Andor caused the reason that he got thrown into prison indirectly. Like if he hadn't pulled off the heist, they wouldn't have the extra security measures, he wouldn't have gotten thrown into prison for 6 years. All the other prisoners wouldn't have had their sentences doubled. So if they found out that Andor was responsible for all that, they'd probably be really pissed off at him. During the dinner, too, Mon Mothma's husband seems like he goes even further towards pro-Empire stance because he keeps referencing the old ways versus the new ways. Mon Mothma keeps hinting that she doesn't want to have anything to do with that. Like they talk about the old ways of Chandra, how she and her husband got married when they were 15 years old, which seems crazy, but apparently that's a custom on Chandrila. You kind of get this vibe, too, that her husband might think that she's having an affair with Take Homa because she spends so much time talking or thinking about him. Like, where did Take Homa go? Oh, he's over here. Oh, okay, I'm going to go talk to him now. Her daughter also seems like she's picking up on some of that vibe, too, but she doesn't know exactly what Mon Mothma is up to that has something to do with the rebellion. Remember, they're trying to use his banks to move rebel money, and even though he says there's some issues lately, I think that'll just continue. They'll figure out whatever those problems are. My early theory right now is that her daughter, who seemed like she kind of hated her before because she seemed like she loved the Empire, will learn what she's really doing, and eventually her relationship with her daughter will get much better, but something really tragic will happen, like either her daughter and her husband will die, or just her daughter will die, and that will push her fully into the rebellion. Like she'll become much more active in the rebellion than she already is. Also, you may have noticed one of the senators that Mon Mothma talks to here is named Yavin, Yvin, and even though that's a brand new name, brand new person in the Star Wars universe, I think the name is meant to be a direct reference to Yavin 4, their future rebel base in Rogue One in A New Hope. Like every meeting that she has during this dinner here is meant to reference the rebellion and what happens during the future movies. We also get a little bit more of Mon Mothma's backstory. We found out she became a senator at age 16. That's also the same age that Princess Leia was when she became a senator, but Princess Leia is supposed to be the youngest senator in the history of the Empire. Because they were both 16 when they became senators, Princess Leia was probably just a few months younger than Mon Mothma was when she became one. Still wondering if we're ever going to see Princess Leia cameo during the series, like a teenage version of Leia, because I think the events of the series are meant to stop right before the events of Rogue One, and that's around the time where Princess Leia had become a senator. We're starting to get a bunch more cameos in the series, so they might save some of that for season 2. When we go back to Ferrix, we find out that things have gotten even worse because the Empire have tightened the screw even more. Dedra is now hauling in different people, interrogating them, trying to find Andor. His mother is getting more ill, hurting herself, trying to help the rebels as she thinks that she's helping them. Bix finds out that she hurt herself trying to open an old tunnel, allowing rebels to get in and get rid of the Empire. They'll probably pay that off towards the end of the season when Andor tries to return to Ferrix. We also find out that on the rebel side of things, Velsartha and Cinta have come to Ferrix also looking for Andor. Remember, Kleya implied that she wanted her to kill Andor, but it seems like they're trying to position Velsartha as a much better character. Like, she wants to have this relationship with Cinta. She also probably doesn't want to kill Andor. When she winds up leaving at the end of the episode, I think the idea is that she'll eventually try to help Andor escape. Like, they'll both continue through the rebellion. Don't know if they'll kill her off by the end of the season. Hopefully they'll keep her to season 2, because they're just introducing a couple really interesting characters. We also get a little bit more of her backstory too. She's from a rich family and turned against their ways on Coruscant, the same way that Mon Mothma is basically doing, except she's still a senator, but she's using her family money to fund the rebellion, and obviously slowly doing more and more to help them. Back inside Luthen's shop, they've moved the Jedi Temple Guardian armor to the middle display. That's what this helmet is here. You probably recognize that. I'm not sure where this helmet to the right comes from, but it does look familiar. If you think you know where it's from, write in the comments below. And the helmet on the left, I believe, is the one from the prequels, part of the headdress that Padme wears in The Phantom Menace. The Mandalorian armor looks similar to Jango Fett's armor and the Mandalorian's Beskar armor later in the timeline. I don't know if this is meant to be Beskar, but it probably is, just because the whole thing inside Luthen's shop is that he deals in super rare, expensive artifacts. And even though they cycled the placement of artifacts in the middle, the Starkiller armor is still sitting in the background there just because it looks so cool, like that doesn't move around. They also have a second set of Starkiller armor in the back of the shop too. Then Luthen goes to see Saw Gerrera, who they bring back in the next cameo of the episode, obviously earlier in the timeline, so he's still alive now. When he says the long way around, that's also a bit of a Matt Smith Doctor Who reference. Matt Smith obviously playing a version of Daemon Targaryen on House of the Dragon, which I just did a whole bunch of videos for. Love the scene with Saw Gerrera and Luthen just going back and forth because no one wants to admit actually pulling off the heist. Like, okay, well, if you did do it, we'll say that it was a great job. Like, I think Saw Gerrera kind of figured out, like, oh yeah, it was definitely you that pulled it off, even though you don't want to admit it. If you didn't watch any of the Bad Batch episodes, they actually brought the character on earlier in his timeline. He's basically a character who didn't want to have anything to do with either the Republic or with the Separatists. During the Clone Wars on his home planet of Onderon, he fought to try and keep them independent. That's why one of their big arguments is Saw Gerrera not wanting to become part of the larger rebellion and work with other rebel cells. Like, I don't want to work with that guy, was because the other guy Luthen wants him to work with, Anto Kreegyr, was a separatist Whereas Saw Gerrera was a Neo-Republican, like in Neo-Republic, so they're on opposite sides of the Clone War, and now because of what's happened with the Empire, they both find themselves on the same side. And that's kind of the general idea across the entire rebellion. You had the Clone Wars with the Separatists versus the Republic, but now with the rise of the Empire, you have the Rebellion versus the Empire, and a lot of former Separatists working with a lot of former Republic. When he references the Gorman Front, that's a reference to a recent atrocity that the Empire committed, killing a bunch of innocent people. The Partisan Alliance is just the former Republic people working with the Separatists inside the Rebellion. And they end the episode with this big WTF moment of Dedra getting her hands on Bix, getting ready to interrogate her. Like I said, Dedra is trying to find out where Andor is so that she can get to Luthen and crush whatever this rebellion is that she thinks that is developing. Because we keep coming back to Ferrix, I think the whole idea is that Andor will escape and eventually come back to Ferrix, so whatever big final conflict they have during Season 1, it will happen on Ferrix. And just as Andor is returning, Dedra will also probably learn about Andor's identity, and they'll come face to face, and that's when I think that they'll figure out that they're the long-lost siblings. But if you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write down below in the comments. And they just dropped all the Star Wars Tales of the Jedi episodes. I'll do a full breakdown video for that tomorrow, just because there's so much stuff that they revealed. There's a bunch of new Ahsoka stuff. They have this whole new backstory on Count Dooku, like you could call Tales of the Jedi Dooku's story, because most of it is about him. We get more Qui-Gon Jinn, and they brought back Yaddle. Like, they actually explained what happened to Yaddle during the prequels, why she just disappeared. While you wait for that, everyone click here for my new House of the Dragon Season 2 video, and click here for my House of the Dragon Episode 10 finale video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.